So it's my own birthday gift to myself to have the courage, the chutzpah to say, come and see my artwork.
Pierce Brosnan's world is crumbling once again. After surviving the heartbreaking deaths of his wife and daughter, he's now facing another devastating blow, his wife's tragic diagnosis. Is this the final chapter in a life filled with unimaginable loss? How much more can one man endure before everything he loves is gone forever? Pierce Brosnan's shattered childhood. Behind the glamour and sophistication of Pierce Brosnan, there's a hidden history of heartbreak and hardship that would surprise even his most dedicated fans. Born in Drogheda, Ireland in 1953, Brosnan's early life was anything but smooth. His father, Thomas Brosnan, abandoned him and his mother, May, when Pierce was just an infant. This left May to make the impossible decision of leaving her young son in the care of others while she moved to London to work as a nurse, visiting him only occasionally. Pierce was only 4 when he was sent to live with his maternal grandparents, Philip and Kathleen Smith, in Navan, County Meath. This temporary arrangement became his childhood reality, as he was shuffled from one relative to another. For a young boy, this constant change created a sense of instability and loneliness, and Brosnan often described his childhood as fairly solitary. The absence of his mother and the complete abandonment by his father set a haunting tone for his early years. At times, he lived with his aunt and uncle, but there was no permanent home to call his own. Even though he lived in Navan for most of his young life, Ireland was not the comforting refuge one might imagine. Pierce's recollections paint a picture of a boy who, though surrounded by relatives, often felt like he was completely on his own. Things took another tragic turn when his beloved grandparents passed away. This left him utterly lost, and Brosnan was once again uprooted from the only source of stability he had. He ended up living in a boarding house run by a woman named Eileen, who offered him some semblance of safety in an otherwise turbulent childhood. But there's no doubt this was a far cry from a loving family environment. As Brosnan entered his teenage years, his life took a dramatic shift. At the age of 11, he moved to Scotland to live with his mother and her new husband, William Carmichael, a man who would unknowingly alter the course of Brosnan's future. Carmichael wasn't just a stepfather, he introduced Brosnan to the world of James Bond by taking him to see Goldfinger, an experience that would later come full circle in a way neither of them could have imagined. Despite this pivotal moment, life was still far from easy. Brosnan attended the strict Elliott School in London, a place where discipline reigned supreme, but his passion for the arts began to blossom, perhaps as an escape from his otherwise difficult life. He pursued an education in art and enrolled at St. Martin's School of Art in London, where he hoped to carve out a career as a commercial illustrator. But fate had other plans for him. His journey into acting began almost by accident. A chance encounter during a workshop rehearsal at the Oval House Theatre sparked his interest in acting when he witnessed a Fire Eater's performance. This moment would ignite a passion within him, pushing him to embrace the world of theater and ultimately Hollywood. Through all these challenges, Brosnan managed to keep going, refusing to let the tragic cycle of abandonment define him. His determination to break free from his troubled past was fierce. He vowed to be a better father than his own had been, ensuring that no child of his would grow up feeling as lost and alone as he had. But as Brosnan's journey into acting took off, he couldn't escape the memories of his traumatic childhood. Did these early hardships fuel his drive for success? And did his unresolved pain shape the performances that would later make him a star? From struggling actor to iconic Bond. Pierce Brosnan's rise to fame wasn't as straightforward as his polished performances might suggest. In the early stages of his career, the future James Bond was anything but a household name. After leaving school at 16, Brosnan initially pursued his passion for art, enrolling at St. Martin's School of Art in London. But a twist of fate during that fateful fire-eating performance pushed him towards the dramatic arts, and soon enough he found himself at the prestigious Drama Centre London training as an actor. It was a leap of faith, and Brosnan threw himself into it, hoping that acting might be the answer to escaping his troubled past. His first foray into the professional acting world was far from glamorous. Brosnan started as an acting assistant stage manager at the York Theatre Royal, working behind the scenes before stepping into a small role in a production of Wait Until Dark. But it wasn't long before his potential was recognized. In a stroke of luck, renowned playwright Tennessee Williams selected Brosnan for the British premiere of The Red Devil Battery Sign, catapulting him into the world of serious theater. Williams was so impressed by the young actor that he sent a telegram praising his performance, saying, "Thank God for you, my dear boy." That heartfelt note is still one of Brosnan's most cherished possessions, a memento from a time when he was just beginning to break through. However, theater alone couldn't pay the bills, and Brosnan had to endure the typical struggles of an actor on the rise. There were moments of doubt and uncertainty. Would his career ever take off? Could he escape the shadows of his tragic childhood and truly make a name for himself in the world of entertainment? The answer came when Brosnan landed a role in the miniseries The Manions of America. This opened the door for his big television break, Remington Steele. The series, which ran from 1982 to 1987, showcased Brosnan as a charming ex-convict detective with a love for classic films. His charisma and sophistication quickly won over audiences, and Brosnan became a household name. His role on Remington Steele gave him the chance to show the world a version of himself that was suave and cool, not unlike the iconic James Bond character he would later embody. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. In fact, Brosnan's first opportunity to take on the role of James Bond came in 1986, while Remington Steele was still on the air. The producers behind the Bond franchise saw Brosnan's potential, and he was offered the coveted role after Roger Moore's departure. The media buzzed with excitement, hailing him as the perfect fit for 007. Everything seemed to be falling into place. However, a devastating twist came when the Remington Steele producers, sensing the newfound attention on their show's star, invoked a contractual clause to keep him on for another season. This forced Brosnan to turn down the opportunity of a lifetime, leaving him heartbroken and delaying his Bond debut by nearly a decade. It was a crushing blow, but Brosnan kept his head high and remained determined. His big screen debut would eventually come, and when it did, it was spectacular. In 1995, after an 8-year wait, Brosnan was finally given the chance to play the world's most famous secret agent. GoldenEye, his first Bond film, was a massive success, smashing box office records and cementing Brosnan's place in cinematic history. But the road to Bond wasn't without its controversies. Many fans of the franchise, particularly those loyal to Sean Connery and Roger Moore, were skeptical that Brosnan could fill the shoes of such legendary predecessors. Could he live up to the legacy, or would he fall short like George Lazenby had in On Her Majesty's Secret Service? The pressure was immense, but Brosnan silenced the critics with a performance that combined the charisma of Connery, the humor of Moore, and his own unique flair. His Bond was modern, stylish, and dangerous, but underneath it all, Brosnan's own personal history brought a vulnerability to the role that had rarely been seen before in Bond. Audiences connected with him in a way they hadn't with previous iterations of 007, yet while GoldenEye was a triumph, Brosnan's time as Bond wasn't without challenges. The later films Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day faced mixed critical responses. Some felt the franchise was becoming too reliant on special effects and lacked the grounded intensity of earlier Bond films. Brosnan, though praised for his performances, was caught in the middle of this tension. As the pressure to continually reinvent the franchise mounted, he faced the risk of being forever typecast as James Bond. Could Brosnan escape the Bond persona, or would it be the shadow he couldn't outrun? A heartbreaking loss that changed everything. While Brosnan's career was soaring, his personal life was unraveling in the most tragic way. In 1991, his wife Cassandra Harris, a talented Australian actress and the mother of their 3 children, was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Harris had been a pillar of support for Brosnan throughout his rise to fame, encouraging him to take on roles that would push him as an actor. It was actually Cassandra who urged him to move from the UK to the US in the early 80s, a decision that ultimately shaped his entire career trajectory. As Harris's health declined, Brosnan was forced to juggle his professional commitments with the weight of his family's grief. During the last months of her life, Brosnan shot Livewire and The Lawnmower Man, taking on these projects at her insistence, even though his heart was far from being in it. But when Cassandra passed away in December 1991 after a 4-year battle with the disease, Brosnan was devastated. The loss was immense, and Brosnan later described that period as one of the darkest moments of his life. He had to face the unimaginable pain of losing the love of his life while also being thrust into the role of a single father. Brosnan had adopted Cassandra's 2 children, Charlotte and Christopher, from her previous marriage, and together they had a son, Sean. Suddenly, Brosnan found himself raising 3 children alone while grappling with his own grief. For years after her death, he would speak of Cassandra with profound reverence, saying, "She made me the man I am, the actor I am, and the father I am." Her loss was not just personal, it was something that shook the very core of who he was. But tragedy struck the Brosnan family again in 2013 when Charlotte, now grown and with a family of her own, succumbed to the same ovarian cancer that had claimed her mother's life 22 years earlier. Charlotte's death reopened the wounds that Brosnan had fought so hard to heal. This devastating blow left Brosnan heartbroken once again as he had to face the cruel reality that this relentless disease had taken not one but two of the women he loved most. Could Brosnan survive this latest heartbreak, or would it break him once and for all? Finding love in devastation. After the devastating loss of Cassandra Harris, Pierce Brosnan was left a widower at just 38 years old, struggling to raise 3 children while maintaining his acting career. In the midst of his grief, it seemed impossible that he would find love again. But life, as it often does, took an unexpected turn when he met Keely Shea Smith in 1994 at a beach party in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Keely was a journalist and former actress who was at the party to interview Ted Danson, but instead she found herself captivated by Brosnan. The connection between Pierce and Keely was immediate, and their first date came just days later. The two spent hours talking under the stars, sharing stories and finding comfort in each other's company. It was a new chapter in Brosnan's life, and one that began to heal the wounds left by his tragic past. As their relationship blossomed, Keely brought warmth and joy back into Brosnan's life, helping him move forward while still honoring the memory of Cassandra. Brosnan has often credited Keely with saving him during one of the darkest times in his life, saying that her love brought him back to life. Their relationship wasn't without its challenges, however. Brosnan was still grieving, and the public's fascination with his personal life meant that he had to deal with intrusive headlines and speculation. Many wondered if he could truly move on from the love he had lost, and whether Keely was simply a rebound from the immense pain of losing Cassandra. But as the years went by, their love proved to be genuine and enduring. In 2001, Pierce and Keely married in a beautiful, intimate ceremony at Ballintuber Abbey in Ireland, surrounded by close friends and family. It was a symbol of the life Brosnan had managed to rebuild despite all the tragedy he had faced. Together they welcomed 2 sons, Dylan and Paris, and the couple worked hard to create a blended family that included Brosnan's children from his marriage to Cassandra. Throughout their relationship, Brosnan has often spoken of his deep admiration and love for Keely, describing her as the most beautiful woman in the world and praising her for her strength, kindness, and unwavering support. Keely's own career is nothing short of impressive. She has made a name for herself as an environmental journalist and activist, earning several awards for her work, including Genesis Awards for her efforts in environmental conservation. She also produced and hosted eco-friendly living shows like Home Green Home, further highlighting her passion for sustainability. But despite her accomplishments, Keely has often found herself in the harsh spotlight of public scrutiny, particularly regarding her weight. Over the years, tabloids and internet trolls have relentlessly attacked her for her appearance, with headlines cruelly mocking her body. This media backlash has only strengthened the bond between her and Brosnan, as he has consistently come to her defense, declaring his love for every curve of her body. He's often spoken out against the toxic culture of body shaming, calling it a form of bullying that needs to end. Despite the outside noise, the couple's love remains solid, a testament to their deep connection and shared values. Keely helped Brosnan rediscover happiness, and he in turn has stood by her through public scrutiny and personal challenges. Their relationship is a reminder that love can blossom even in the wake of profound tragedy, and that healing is possible no matter how deep the wounds. But as strong as their love is, can it withstand the lingering shadows of Brosnan's past? Or will the tragedies that once defined his life come back to haunt him? A father's final goodbye. Though Pierce Brosnan had found solace in his marriage to Keely, his life continued to be marked by heartache. Perhaps one of the most painful chapters in his life involves his adopted son, Christopher Brosnan. When Pierce married Cassandra Harris in 1980, he adopted her 2 children from a previous marriage, Charlotte and Christopher, after their biological father passed away. For years, Pierce embraced his role as their father, providing them with the stability he never had growing up. But the death of Cassandra in 1991 had a profound impact on Christopher, sending him down a dark path that would ultimately drive a wedge between father and son. Christopher struggled with substance abuse for years, a battle that began shortly after his mother's death. Despite Pierce's efforts to help him, including giving him opportunities to work on several film projects like Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough, Christopher's addiction spiraled out of control. He faced multiple legal issues, including a stint in jail for driving under the influence in 1997. Brosnan tried everything he could to steer his son in the right direction, but Christopher's destructive behavior continued to strain their relationship. By the early 2000s, it became clear that Pierce had to make a heartbreaking decision to let his son go. In interviews, Brosnan has spoken about the pain of watching Christopher struggle with his demons, admitting that despite all his attempts to help, his son seemed unwilling to accept the support. In one candid moment, Brosnan said, "Christopher is still struggling to find his way. Although his path has been difficult, I remain hopeful and have faith that he will ultimately find his way out of the darkness." This decision to step back and allow Christopher to navigate his own path, no matter how painful, speaks volumes about the emotional toll it took on Brosnan. He had to come to terms with the fact that, despite his best efforts, he couldn't save his son. The weight of this decision must have been immense, especially for a man who had vowed to be the father he never had. Letting go of Christopher, in a way, mirrored the losses Brosnan had endured throughout his life, adding yet another layer of sorrow to his already tragic narrative. Christopher's struggles continue, and though Pierce remains hopeful, their relationship has never fully recovered. It's a reminder that even with love and support, some battles must be fought alone. Pierce's story as a father, filled with both love and sacrifice, is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. He has faced unimaginable loss, and yet he endures, always holding on to hope that the people he loves can find their way back. After everything Pierce Brosnan has endured, do you think anyone could truly survive that much heartbreak? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story left you speechless, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe for even more shocking tales from Hollywood's biggest stars. Thanks for watching.